Hi, so I'm Tanya Clement. I'm an associate professor in English at the University of Texas. I'm PI in this project, and I'm working with Ben and Sara Brumfield from the Brumfield Labs, and Shawn and Bert from the AVP and the Aviary. And they can also introduce themselves because I want to be cognizant of time. But what I want to do is give you a brief introduction to the project, and then Ben and Sara and Bert will go into the details of what the Brumfield Labs are doing and what Aviary and AVP are up to. So this is our project team, the people I just introduced, as well as some amazing students, graduate students and undergraduate students who have been working with us. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we have some URLs. This is sort of background information on the projects, but I will give you some more kind of useful hands-on URLs in a moment. We are also working with project partners who are an important part of this project at OHMS with Doug Boyd, Spoken Web Research at Concordia University, but all over Canada with Jason Camlott, Christina Davis, who's a curator of the Woodbury Poetry Room at Harvard, Megan Ferreter, who's at the Library of Congress Digital Innovation Lab, Steve Holloway, who's at James Madison University and is working with Furious Flower Project, and Jim Kuhn at the Harry Ransom Center at UT Austin, and Stephen Nairn, who is director of the Fortunoff Video Archive for Holocaust Testimonies at Yale Libraries. And basically, oops, it doesn't want to click forward, sorry. The project is primarily meant to deal with some problems that we saw in the cultural heritage space, where archival audio is in some ways not very accessible. So even when it's digitized, sometimes it's difficult to work with, or it can't leave, it can't actually be online, which we all know can be problematic with IIIF sometimes. And we wanted to kind of work to help alleviate some of these issues of accessibility, one of which is lack of descriptive metadata, and the fact that people in the world can't really sort of add to that metadata. So we came up with a pretty simple idea, creating a application that we're calling AudiAnnotate, which Ben and Sara will tell you about in a minute, where people who have annotations already basically come to the application with a URL and to the audio file and your annotations. You upload them with some metadata. And AudiAnnotate creates a GitHub repository with all the files, including IIIF manifests, and creates a website, essentially. And it looks a little something like this. So I'll just show you a couple of examples that we have here. One of these examples is an audio example that takes, this is a John Beecher audio from the Ransom Center. Our researchers have included a little bit of text here. The audio play is here. You can play the audio. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it or not, but you can also, because we have these time-stamped annotations, you can skip to that place in the audio. Now, all these annotations, keep in mind, are generated by whomever, and they are sitting in GitHub, so they're not even associated with a repository, and they are also connected to a IIIF manifest, which may or may not be useful if people are not kind of working in the IIIF world. But if they already have pre-existing manifests and annotations, the application, I've just dumped this on the screen, sorry. The application can check for those in GitHub, display them. We are, trying to create a space where people can share manifests, do things with IIIF outside of the repository, as well as create a scenario. And this is kind of what you'll end up hearing more from Bert about in the case of Aviary, where if an institution has a DAMS and they make and display IIIF manifests, we can pull those into AudiAnnotate, and people can use them to create projects as well. If the dams, for example, someone using Aviary like Fortunoff, if they like what people have done, because we've embedded it in IIIF, they could conceivably harvest those back in to a collection. And the other thing that we're taking advantage of in working with Aviary is trying to function within the auth protocols of IIIF, so that people with authenticated privileges might be able to see a video or an audio. I'll show you a video example in a second. Whereas another person might just see the annotations out in the world, even if they don't have access to the video or the audio. Let's see, this is some links. I'm kind of going through this quickly, but I can add the link in the chat in a second so people can go there and play themselves. We've got workshops in there. We've got workflows and videos. But before I hand this off to the Brumfields, in this fast sort of brief overview of the whole project, I did also want to show you a video example. So in the video playback, you have the video at the top of the screen. The annotations are going along here on the bottom. And if you click on one of these numbers, it goes to that place. And these annotations are searchable here. So if I note that I just want to see things that have to do with cinematography, if I can spell that on the fly, I'm not sure I can. Look, I did it. I can do that, and then we'll just see those annotations with cinematography in that description. So I'm going to hand it over so that Ben and Sara and Bert can get a little bit more technical about how we're creating this around IIIF. But basically the point is we were trying to kind of put into the hands of the people the ability to annotate items that are retrievable online, but perhaps don't have all the information that they could have in the context of cultural heritage institution workflows and protocols. So thank you, and I will pass this along to Ben and Sara.
All right.
Are we unmuted?
Yes.
Yes, great. So as you probably know, there's lots of amazing tools out there for researchers who are using IIIF enabled images, like annotating things in Mirador, or the Viz Codex tool from the University of Toronto, or the Bodleian Manifest editor, or Slow Looking. So we wanted to leverage the power of IIIF for research and teaching, the same power that we've seen for images, but for audio and for video, with a particular focus on spoken word rather than music, right? There's a lot of kind of music thing tools that are coming out as well. So the key to those great scholarship tools is interoperability. And you have reusable data in the form of manifests and images that are published with the IIIF APIs. And then you have reusable software that uses and manipulates those IIIF items. Very little archival audio is available as IIIF items. Much of it may never be public. So in order to create a researcher-driven tool for audio, we had to turn to existing or manually created assets and take them and turn them into standards-based reusable data. The answer to that is obviously IIIF. And because this is researcher-driven and we wanted to do annotation, IIIF plus web annotations. One of our other driving forces behind this project was using the best open source or free software to leverage our grant dollars and to build something quickly and usable in a fast amount of time. So our project leverages Universal Viewer, Jekyll generated static sites. Projects are hosted on GitHub and then downloadable once they get there, and annotation on top of our annotations using Hypothesis.
So we were inspired by the tenets of minimal computing when we built AudiAnnotate. So since scholarly annotation is generally best done for AV and film offline in tools like Audacity or sometimes even spreadsheets, and since the presentation of the annotations would happen in a static site that could be preserved, when we created the web app, we reduced it to the simplest possible architecture. One somewhat radical decision was to create a Ruby on Rails application that did not store any data locally. So there's no database whatsoever. If it doesn't store data, what does it do? it really acts as a bridge between offline created annotations and a static publication site. So it loads data from the user into a system that stores web annotations as JSON files on a static GitHub Pages site, checks them directly into GitHub, and uses a Jekyll template to create the presentation interface that Tanya just showed.
On top of a IIIF manifest that's also created.
Yeah.
So here's kind of our workflow. You start with audio files from maybe a library or Internet Archive, or a researcher might be hosting it themselves. They do offline annotation, maybe in Audacity, Adobe Premiere, or created in a spreadsheet, any number of ways. The MP3 file reference and those annotations are both input into the AudiAnnotate web application, and kind of out the other end comes a IIIF manifest, web annotations, and a Jekyll template that creates the presentation layer in a GitHub Pages static site.
Tanya just demonstrated this in a live
Right,
demo.
I can skip that one. And then here's another one of our kind of an audio project of Nora Neil Hurston's field recordings, and kind of demonstrates the same search that Tanya did. And then this is a quick screenshot of layering interactive annotations on top of our annotations, because we knew that teaching was one of the use cases we wanted to address. So being able to take an initial set of annotations that's been uploaded and then make them conversational just by layering hypothesis on top of it, which anyone can do. It's nothing special. It's just part of how we're looking at ways to teach people to interact with all of this material. In the past year, we created an Onramp for restricted or offline content, and Onramp is an exaggeration because it's really just a placeholder. We included support for existing IIIF audio manifests. We worked through a couple of collaboration scenarios that are based on the collaboration that GitHub gives you. We decided that forking and pull requests was a bit beyond the technical kin of most of the users of AudiAnnotate, but that a GitHub organization was a way that multiple people could work on the same material. We created import helpers to simplify finding audio file URLs and web pages. We added video support, and we added support for contextual pages and essays around a project, because that's what our researchers asked for.
So this is a work in progress, and here's just some of the things that are on the agenda for the next year. One of the things we want to talk about is Aviary. We know that you don't know whether you've actually implemented an interoperable standard until you've connected two systems using it. So the AW project partners AudiAnnotate, which is researcher focused, with the institutional AV platform Aviary. So that's let us do all kinds of testing back and forth to bring manifests from Aviary into AudiAnnotate to present them. And future work will support exchanging annotations between Aviary and AudiAnnotate. That probably will involve research into a discovery service for GitHub hosted annotations. And I'm very interested in brainstorming on that with people. And I think that is time for Bert.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ben and Sarah. Is my screen visible and can I be heard? Awesome.
Yes, and yes.
Okay, so I'll move quickly through here and talk about how Aviary plays a role in the ALL project, specifically focusing on currently exposing audiovisual content using IIIF manifests. 3 topics that I want to cover, just to give you a sense of where I'm going, is Aviary. I guess, of course, probably I can't assume everybody knows what that is, so I'll give you a quick, short overview of what Aviary is, and then how we're mapping Aviary to IIIF, and then what's next, similar to what we just heard from Sarah and Ben. So first of all, Aviary, what is Aviary? And also, I guess, I just want to first introduce myself. I'm Bert Lyons from AVP, and I want to thank IIIF conference and all the people who put this together for having us today. Aviary is a SaaS platform. It's a focusing on publishing searchable audio and video content. You can check it out online. It's a multi-tenant web application. The SaaS part of it, it also consists of an open source code base in a public repo on GitHub that is available for anyone to work on. It has a subset of the SaaS platform code base, but does include everything that we do for IIIF as part of the public code base. So that is available on GitHub. A quick search for GitHub repo Aviary should get it. And it's also a collaboration originally between AVP and the Fortunoff Video Archive for Holocaust Testimonies at Yale University. And it really focuses on, and the strength of the platform is access and security requirements for audiovisual content. It's really what we focused on when we built this platform. Important to this conversation is the Aviary data model. You know, it's fairly flexible, but quite static as well. So we have, you know, it generally sees the world as collections of audiovisual content. Think of those as sets, and those contain any number of resources, which you could think of as an intellectual concept, like an interview or a digitized tape or a recording of a TV show or whatever it is. And those resources can then be described and contain one or more media files. These are the bits, binary digital audiovisual objects that are actually presented as part of the resource. And each of those media files can then, of course, contain time-based metadata, captions, transcripts, things we call indexes that we borrowed from the oral history metadata synchronizer world, which are basically annotations or segments. And then even further, similar to what Ben and Sara just discussed, we also support annotating on our annotations. So we can annotate our text, which is annotating our media files, etc. So that's the model that we're working from and that we had to map if we want. And part of this project was opening this data up into IIIF manifests so that we could then expose that data to the world for the users of the platform. So real quickly, just to see that data model in action for those of you who have not seen Aviary, you can see generally the top left Peabody Conservatory Commencement 2020 is the title of the resource. It is the intellectual object. It is in a collection called Special Events, still on the top left of the screen. And the media files on the bottom left of the screen, 1, 2, and 3, are the media files that are part of this resource. Number 1 is currently loaded into the media player, and that particular media file has a few transcripts. Currently, we're looking at the Chinese captions on the right-hand side. And you're also noticing that the closed caption for the English captions are actually being displayed on screen as selected by the user to be displayed. The white lines in the timeline bar underneath the media player show index points or specific annotations that have been added to this particular asset. You can see a lot of things interacting on the screen here, and that's one of the things we wanted to do, is to be able to bring this data out into IIIF manifest so that it could go out and be used in other platforms similar, like the AudiAnnotate platform, as well as others. And ultimately, as Ben mentioned, we want to be able to consume IIIF manifests for audiovisual content to be able to render and populate these kinds of data on the fly within Aviary from other sites. Quick look at our Aviary IIIF mapping. In order to do this work, we mapped our intellectual objects to the manifest itself, with metadata being populated up there. We mapped our media files to canvases. So every media file is a canvas with its particular specific metadata that's required there. And then we mapped our first, the media file is also mapped as an annotation on the first annotation page for that canvas. And that's where we place the media file to play out on the canvas. And then any indexes, transcripts, or captions attached to that media file are then included as separate annotation pages, each with annotations that are the way we're doing annotations currently, that each annotation on an annotation page is a time coded body that's attached and pointing to a target which happens to be part of the timeline of the media file. And you can have obviously as many canvases as needed to build out our IIIF manifest. So now in Aviary, what you see for any content, you'll see a IIIF manifest circled here in the yellow circle that you can get access to the manifest link. That will pull up the manifest itself, the JSON manifest, which can be used outside of the system. I have it sort of minimized here to show the 3 different canvases from this particular asset. You would dial in further to the annotations. The actual annotation we saw on the screen, we're honored to present these farewell performances, which we saw here at 1318, which also obviously has other similar annotations at that time point in different languages, showing up both here in the English version. As we dig down further, you can see the Chinese version here. What's next with Aviary and IIIF? We're working on the presentation API wrapper to build out a media player that is able to support the presentation of this content. And we'll be releasing this as an open source embeddable player outside of Aviary. We'll also be working on the integration of authentication API, as mentioned previously by Tanya, and supporting the, as Ben and Sara mentioned, import and consumption of IIIF manifests with AV and annotations, both to support creating resources in Aviary from IIIF manifests, as well as to support importing annotations. And that's where we're headed. And I think I might have gone over my time, so I'm going to say thank you very much, and I appreciate the attention and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
So I think we're about at time for the session, and I need to go start another call, the last call of the day. But I believe that you might be able to still continue with the Q&A on Whova. And I see one question on there about other web applications like Timeliner that you plan to integrate into the workflow. So I would encourage everyone to just continue the conversation there on the chat. And I'm going to have to jump off and unfortunately end this call and start the next one. So thank you all so much. This was really great to see. And thank you everyone for attending. And we're going to have a recording of this available, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call. So keep an eye out for that. So thank you to Sara and Ben and Tanya and Bert. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Bye all.